Well, welcome back into the Barefoot Cook's Kitchen again. Country cooking, but this time we're taking a trip around the world to Italy. That's right, I'm making focaccia bread. Now to save some time, I've actually gone ahead and made the dough. The recipe makes 2 loaves, which I forgot. So now I have an extra one, but the good thing about that is it can be put in the refrigerator for up to 7 days, or you can freeze it. So the extra's not going to go to waste either. For the ingredients for focaccia bread, you need 3 1/4 cups of flour. You can use regular flour or gluten-free. Mine is always gluten-free. A tablespoon plus a teaspoon of granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons of rapid rise instant yeast. Make sure it's instant yeast, because if it's the wrong kind of yeast, it's not going to turn out. I already had one mishap picking up the wrong yeast. 2 1/2 cups of milk and 4 tablespoons of butter melted. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your flour, the yeast, the salt, and you're going to mix it up real good just with a whisk while it's dry. And then you're going to add to that the 4 tablespoons of melted butter and the milk. Now I don't like the milk being straight out of the refrigerator because the yeast has to rise, so why put cold milk in there to inhibit it? So what I did was I just lightly warmed it in the microwave on basically a beverage setting for like a minute, and it took the chill off of it. So you're going to take your blender and you use the blender on low to start with, and slowly and gradually add the butter, the melted butter, and the milk. Alternately, don't add it all at one time because you want it to start building up some air in between the flour particles. So you start out on low. Once you've got all your butter and your milk in there, you beat it for 5 minutes. It just starts the yeast get going, kind of like a jump starts it. Then what you do after that is you take a piece of plastic wrap and you put it over top and you put it in a warm spot, it says. So what I usually do is I'll turn my oven on, and then what I'll do is I will put this bowl right next to the back burner where it's warmest, because it vents up through there and it makes it rise really well. It did double in size. And I put a little line down the middle so I can do half. This is something you do actually in a skillet. If you don't have a skillet, you can use a cookie tray or some kind of a tray where it has a little bit higher lip on the edge. Because this is supposed to be kind of not a thin bread, and so you want to adapt for that. In your skillet, and I have one, I just happen to have a 12-inch skillet, you put in there 2 to 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Then since this makes a double batch of the batter, you're going to put half. You're going to dump half of it in there. And I'm going to try to dump half of it in there, just like this. That's why I put that mark in the middle of the batter, like that. And let's see, did I get all that half? There's still a little bit there. It's kind of like a sticky, gooey kind of texture, which is fine. Now, you could do it with your fingers and kind of like spread it out in the bottom of the pan. I'm going to use this fork to start with. I don't want to get my fingers any stickier than I have to. And you just spread it out on top of that olive oil. Just so it's nice and smooth in there. Just like this. Now this gets to rise one more time for about 20 minutes. It's not going to double in height at all, because it's not supposed to. It's just to rise a little bit more. And I'm going to put the plastic back on top of it. I'm using this big serving fork kind of thing to try to make it nice and evenly spread. So it's got about the same thickness all the way around. That. Okay. I may actually make 2 loaves of this, just for the fun of it, but I have to wait till this one's done. Okay, now, with that in mind, I should get a cookie tray and put the other half on it. That way we can make both of them at the same time. That'd be cool. So let me get my plastic wrap out here. Yeah, the olive oil, it comes to about a 1/4 cup when you do 2 tablespoons. That's for one. And of course, there'll be 2 more tablespoons for this one. So I'm going to place that plastic wrap right over top. And since the fan up here doesn't want to let me do it with one sheet, I'm going to use 2. Okay. And then I'm going to put that to the side for that one. And let's see. You want to put your oven to 400 degrees. And I had it at 350 for the purpose of getting the dough to rise. I need one more pan. Next, I'm going to use this one. It's got nice tall sides. And then 2 tablespoons on the bottom for this loaf. There's 1 and 2. I'll put 3. It says 2 to 4. How about 3? 3 is a good number. I like number 3. And then dump this half into this pan. That way I'm not having to refrigerate it and save it. And I have neighbors who have a bunch of little kids, and I love giving them food. So that's the fun part, when you get to share with people. And if you've ever been to a high school graduation or anything from an Italian family, I have my best friend. Her family's 2nd generation Italian, and my goodness, they sure do know how to eat. And they have the most delicious foods, and I think it's all about the spices and everything. This is about as sticky as I want to get right here. Like that. I do need to scoop out the rest of this stuff in the bottom of this right here. I don't know why it's sticking. I need a regular spoon, I think, is what I'm going to need. One that I can scoop it out. Because I don't like to waste any dough whatsoever. If I can get it out of there with a spoon, it's coming out. Because it sticks to the side of the bowl. And I need to have all of the dough in there that I'm supposed to have. There's not supposed to be any good here. When we were kids, not making bread we would do, but you know, Mom makes frosting for your cake, and everybody wants to fight over the beater bars. Lick them off. Well, it's kind of like the same sort of thing, except it's not very tasty when you go to lick this off a spoon. But when it cooks up, that's a whole nother story. There's that. That's my stove telling me it's at 400 degrees. Thank you, stove! So I'm going to spread this second one out. This is going to be a smaller version, just because this is a really big pan. I didn't plan on making 2, but it's quite alright. The skillet helps it to stay like in a uniform shape. It's fine. Get in there. Hello. Stretch this out. Just a smidgen. So I mostly have seen focaccia bread in the past where you had a rectangular or square pan, and I've never seen it round. So when I discovered cooking lots of things in a skillet was fun, I decided I'm going to try this in a skillet. And it actually works very, very well, I must say. But if you don't have one, you can use a pan like this. I would say a square, an 8x8 square would probably work for it better instead of a rectangular one. You can put it on a cookie sheet. It's meant to be crispy on the outside, on the edges, and soft on the inside. That's the whole thing with focaccia. That's the consistency it's supposed to have. So it rises a little bit, but then part of it stays crunchy. Oh gosh, I normally lick my fingers. I'm not doing that. Rinse that off. Okay. I love doing international foods. I don't know what it is, but it's actually fun. So this one I need to cover up also. And it needs to sit over in that same warm spot on top of the stove while I prep the rest of the little things that I have here for it. Get off the ceiling fan. I mean, you need one in the kitchen, but sometimes it fights you when you're trying to accomplish a certain task. So there's that one. And it's going to sit right over here where it's getting ready to make some candies. So I've been doing a lot of prepping of a lot of different things. So some people will do focaccia bread just plain like that with the herbs at the end on top. Oh, the other thing I did not remember to do. Before you put the plastic on, you put 2 more tablespoons of the olive oil on top. You drizzle it. So let me do that really fast before I totally forget. And it's the olive oil that makes this bread so wonderful. There we go, there's that. And that one. Because it marinates with this herb that you put on here as well. And I'm sorry if I'm out of camera shot, but I totally forgot that it goes in on the top also. Right there. Okay. And this one is already rising for me, which is cool. I just have set my timer for not that way. There we go. Alright. So I got the other, so it's 2 tablespoons in the bottom of the pan, the skillet. Put in the dough, which this recipe makes 2 loaves. Take half, put in there, smooth it out, but not like smooth. It can have dimples in it. And then you want to drizzle on it 2 more tablespoons of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. Now, where I grew up, we have a lot of Italian relatives, but they added other things onto their focaccia, and that's what I grew up with, and that's what I really love. If you have fresh rosemary, absolutely wonderful. You can't beat it. I actually have 6 bushes in my garden, and I use them to keep the deer out of the garden, and then I thought, no, that's an awful lot of rosemary, and I would hate for something that's usable to go to waste. You can use this in soup, stews, whatever. For focaccia, you need fresh. You can do dried. I mean, there's dried all day long. But because of the time of year that we're in, it's hard to find fresh chives or fresh thyme. So I have the dried version. And it won't be the same, but it'll be comparable, let's put it that way. I prefer the fresh. So I know that come February here, I'll be planting my herb garden indoors and then take it outside. So if you have fresh, and the way you get the fresh rosemary off of the stems is, when it's still real, this is dried a little bit because I had picked it a day or 2 ago. And you start at the top with your fingers like this, and you go against the grain, so to speak, and it falls off. It comes right off. Now, even when it's fresh and it's still kind of like moist to the touch, it'll still come off just like that. And I make essential oils, and I use the rosemary in that. So that's what I was like, wait a minute, I can do essential oils with the rosemary. It makes wonderful essential oil for respiratory issues. Great for people with allergies and asthma. So if you see any of that, I'm making some. I've made some for my husband, and it has really helped him out a lot. So that would be how you would do the fresh rosemary. Fresh thyme, same thing, except when it's fresh, you kind of have to pluck it off of the stems. Chives, you just literally just cut them up. Little known fact, if you have a yard, have you ever seen the tall, skinny grass that grows up? It's a weed, basically. At least that's what we used to call it, a weed. Little did we know it's actually an herb. And when you go to pick it because you don't like it growing up in your yard because it makes your yard look messy, it smells like onions, right? Those are chives. Those are wild chives, or natural chives as I call them. Harvest them. Keep some on hand. You can freeze them too. You just put them in a Ziploc bag and put them in the freezer. It doesn't hurt them. So we don't have any because my husband just killed it all. It's like, darn, I would have had fresh chives, but I don't. So now I have the dried. So while that is rising, not doubling in size, I'm prepping the toppings that we always had on ours. It was just thinly sliced green bell pepper and red onion. Now, some relatives I have would put tomato on there, but I don't like oven cooked tomatoes. I like tomato sauce, but just something about, I don't know. It's just me. But when you go to cut your vegetables thinly, like I mean as thin as you can get them, you want a wide blade knife. This could be wider. My other wide blade is too long, so I need a short wide blade one sometime. I'll get one. So in the meantime, I use this one. And because of that, I can't take the whole half of the bell pepper and do a nice long thin slice, so I cut it into fourths. So for one of these, I only need a fourth of a green bell pepper anyway. So I quartered it, and to slice it, let me angle this so you can actually kind of see better. I hope I don't mess it. There we go. To slice that, you get, I kind of squash at it, and you just get real thin and kind of saw it, because that's the only way with this small blade it's going to do it. You don't even, it's only about a 1/16 of an inch. I mean, it's thin, super thin. And you do that for that whole quarter of green bell pepper. This will actually work probably for both the breads. Just be careful of your fingers. I'm not one of those fancy chefs where I can put my knuckles right next to it. But if you take your time and you kind of saw at it, and you can actually be in control of how thick you want it. I'm going to save that for a treat. Same thing with the red onion. Now, with a red onion, this is a big honking onion. If it's too tall, too big, it's okay if you only get a half slice out of that. Doing it this way. Same thing, very thin slices. Because the focaccia bread only takes 20 to 25 minutes at 400 degrees. And anything longer than that, and you'd risk these toppings to burn. So we're not going to have them burn. And if you make them thicker, then you end up with the onions going to be like half raw kind of thing. But some people like it that way. I particularly don't. So you thinly slice that. And then for your herbs, they, I'm trying to remember, how much did I put on here? That's it, 2 tablespoons. Oh, almost forgot. You're also going to need Parmesan cheese. Freshly grated is better. I couldn't get my husband to buy it because it's too expensive. So I use the brand. I'll use the really good Parmesan already grated cheese, because yeah, it's whatever. So it's 2 tablespoons of freshly chopped rosemary, and this is about 1 tablespoon. Where'd my spoons go? I lost those spoons twice today already. I just had them. There they are. So that's, you know, it takes a good bit of rosemary. And I'm just glad I had 1 fresh herb to use. It would have been nice to have all 3, but one's good. Besides, the rosemary is the most pungent of all the 3 herbs. Between the thyme and the chives, this one has the most aroma, so to speak. And you don't want any of the stick. So you gotta go through and make sure you just have the little tip things. But I get all excited when I actually have a fresh herb, because I've had things done with just dried before. It's not the same. It's, you know, what they say is true. It's not the same if it's not fresh. So I'm going to put that like that. I'm going to go ahead and chop this up, see, and I'm not using this little, I know what it is, but it's perfect for this. We're not having cocktails. So you just, for chopping up the rosemary, you're just going to go across one way and then the other way, kind of like a checkerboard. It's just to release the oils and flavors inside the rosemary, so it will infuse into the bread when it cooks. Like this. The smaller you can get it, the better. Now, if I want to, I mean, I could grind it, but then you wouldn't have the texture with like having a rosemary powder or ground rosemary. Don't want ground rosemary. So I think this is probably going to be just 1 tablespoon right here. Yep, that's one. And I need one more. So I get to play with it some more. Now the thing with rosemary, if you come across, if you have it fresh, okay, be wary of blossoms. Now the blossoms won't harm your use of it. It's just that since I do essential oils, that's what I look for. The essential oils are better when you get it made with the blossoms that are mixed into it. And I don't want to waste the blossoms on a piece of bread. I know, strange stuff I say, but I want to be able to use those blossoms for the oils. And if I use them all in my cooking, then I won't have them. Silly, silly woman. I know. Get the sticks out of here. And these guys come over. This stuff will fling everywhere if you're not careful. It does. And it's okay if it gets on the end because the onion's gone on there anyway. So this is the other tablespoonful. It smells in here wonderful when you're making this kind of stuff. It's just something else. Okay. So that should be my other tablespoon. Yep. Of course, I'll have to be sweeping up fresh rosemary off the floor probably for 3 days. And there's those 2 tablespoons right there. Same thing with the chives. I'm going to put, actually just, yeah, I'll do, these, ooh, for dry, these are like really moist. I'm impressed. They really are. They're not so dried after all. Tablespoon of chives. That's for 1. So when I do the other one, I'll have its own tablespoon. And I guess I'll just stick it on the lid for now. Of course, I'll have to do more rosemary for the other one. But if I don't want too much on there, I'll just split it in half. Okay, and this little guy, there's the thyme. That, I just put basically 1 tablespoon. I don't like a whole lot of thyme with it, so I'll put that there. For that one, the second one. Just have to, don't forget the rosemary, so. And then 1/4. This one that's almost ready to rock. Just like that. Okay, so there I have rosemary, chives, thyme. Now some people only put rosemary on it. Nah, it's not real focaccia to me. You put thyme and you put rosemary, you put chives on there. You want all those flavors going pop, pop, pop in your mouth. Seriously. And in the meantime, you're slicing up your onions and bell peppers. You do not have to put the onions and bell peppers on it. You really don't. That's just my preference. Most people will put that plus tomato slices and then also the Parmesan. No, you could do it with just the herbs and the Parmesan. You don't need to use the onion and green pepper. I just like it to be more like a pizza because it kind of is like a pizza as far as the flavor goes. We've got about 5 minutes. These are some of the items that I use for the dough. As far as the flour goes for making it gluten-free, all I did was substitute the gluten-free version of the non-gluten-free. So for regular all-purpose flour, I would have used unbleached flour, not bleached flour. And after unbleached, gluten-free is the all-purpose gluten-free. You can you can actually do it and have it have a little coconutty flavor if you put about 1/2 cup of coconut flour in there with it. it makes it taste different and good. I love the coconut flour. I can't wait to make some biscuits with it. And tapioca flour is kind of like they call like a filler, but what it does is it thickens it up. You don't really want your focaccia to be like thick, but you can add that if you like. I don't do that in mine. I use it in other things. Coconut flour. The sugar that I use is turbinado, which is cane sugar. It's not bleached out or anything. It's not a processed sugar. It's cane sugar, and that's what I put in all of my items that I cook, whether they're gluten-free or not. I just don't use processed sugar. Processed to me means what they do to it. Natural cane sugar, yeah, okay, I'll go for that. But and then of course it's the flake salt or the it can be any kind of salt except table salt. In other words, you want a grainier salt to put in this because it has more of the benefits of salt than, say, the regular table salt does. The Mediterranean pink salt is wonderful. That's usually my go-to, but I'll also do the sea salt for that. Oh, I just realized I have enough for the other one. It's right in here. I'm so silly. For the other tablespoon that I need, or the 2 tablespoons I need. Yep. I had harvested this a couple of days before, so I may as well use it for the second bread. Yeah, I started making, I was like, I think this is too much dough. I was like, oh wait, this is for 2. Now when I make pies during the holidays, I always make two pumpkin typically. It's because it's like a favorite in our family, so I do 2. And fortunately, the recipe calls for 2. It actually makes 2. I don't have to double anything because it's already incorporated into it. Okay. That is a good... Yeah, that's definitely 2. Yes, I'm eyeballing things. It drives people crazy when I do that, but I can't help it. That's how we do. We don't really measure much in the countryside. Like this, you're supposed to just 2 tablespoons of this for me? Nah, I do 3. I don't know why, I just do. So let me check on the rising of the dough. And this one has risen very nicely. It hasn't doubled, so to speak, but it's very nice. I'm going to put this one in its place. One side of this oven's hotter than the other. And what about that? So let's do this, and we'll do 5 more minutes for that one. That one needs a good 5 minutes or so to get it to the same point as this round one. So here is my focaccia, second rising, okay? It's not double, but it has risen. And on that, because it's got the oil all gooey on top, I love it. You're going to take your spices, your herbs. Now, if this seems to be too much when I sprinkle it on there, obviously I'm not going to use it all. Because I can't remember if the 2 tablespoons is for 1 or 2. So this may be for actually 4. I can tell by when I sprinkle it. So, I'm doing this. I'm tossing my herbs. Just like this. I'm tossing my herbs. So they all get mixed together. And I'm going to sprinkle it on top. Just like this. Yeah, I think this was for 2 of them. Because it seems like an awful lot. I mean, I like my herbs. Oh, nope, it's for 1. Okay. This is very herby. It's a very herby recipe. And normally, at this stage, you would just sprinkle the Parmesan on it. I'm doing my onions and green peppers on this one. Just because I can. And because I like the way it tastes. I like lots of flavor in my food, so that's what I do. Do like this one. That. I used to make this a lot, and then I kind of got away from doing it. I was like, you know, there's a really good bread. And so I made some more. And then just a little bit of the green pepper. Get kind of decorative, like some little artsy part of me comes out. I make it like a little design on the top. Da-da-da-da. And there, now it looks like a big old flower on top. Kinda, sorta. And then the Parmesan. 2 tablespoons of Parmesan grated. Freshly grated is better, but since we don't have, you see that? That was like 1 1/2. And you just kind of sprinkle it over top. It's part of the dough over there. And the other one, just like this. I think I went a little heavy in that spot. Spread it back. You just kind of fling it if you get it too heavy on one spot, and it's all good. Now, this gets in the oven, 400, for 20 to 25 minutes. Okay. Let's see, timer. Okay, there's that. All right. Now that's going in the oven for the 20 to 25 minutes. I'm waiting on the second loaf to finish its little rising mode because I got it started second. And in the meantime, a lot of people fuss about that they don't have certain ingredients for things. There are substitutions. There is a lot of substitutions you can use to get the same taste, same effect. And one that kept coming up for me, seems a lot, was this buttermilk. And I don't know too many people who like buttermilk. I'm one of them. I'm not crazy about it. But it's one ingredient in a certain kind of cake recipes that make it a moister cake, and that's why they call for buttermilk in there, because of the way it's cultured. So I found a substitute for buttermilk, and there's not a single thing of buttermilk in it. There's milk in it, yes, but not any butter. You take, to get 1 cup of buttermilk, and this is if you want to keep some buttermilk on hand for recipes. I don't know what it would be like to drink it, actually. It's not real buttermilk, it's a substitute, or an imitation, I call it. You take a tablespoon of lemon juice, and you put it in your measuring cup. And then you put enough milk in there to make it to reach a cup. So it's like a cup of milk minus a tablespoon of milk. That tablespoon is lemon juice. You can use lime juice. I don't know what orange juice would do, but I just know it's something about the citric acid in the lemonade. I said lemonade. I'm thinking lemonade. Lemon that does this chemical reaction in the milk. It's a kind of curdling, but not exactly. It's like it's infusing itself into the milk, which makes it this buttermilk kind of property. So that's how you make a substitute for buttermilk. There are all kinds of things that you can do for, say, a recipe that says almond meal. What is almond meal? Almond meal is almonds ground up to be like a flour. It's basically almond flour. So if you see almond flour on the shelf, you go right ahead and buy that if that's the almond meal is part of your recipe. If you don't, and you can't find that ingredient anywhere, but you can find almonds, get the natural almonds. Shelled, already shelled is preferred because it makes life easier. And then, of course, they still have that brown skin on them. Well, the way you get almond meal is you take those almonds that have the skin on them, and you take a saucepan on your stove, put water enough in there to cover them, plus about 1 inch, and you bring it to a boil for 1 minute, no longer. If you let them boil more than 1 minute, they're burned, and they won't have the taste that they need to have. So as soon as that 1 minute goes off, you set that timer for 1 minute from the time you see it boil. You take it immediately off, throw that hot water off put the almonds in a colander and run cold water over them right away. It's almost like blanching your vegetables when you go to freeze them. Same process. So once you do the cold water over the almonds and hold them inside the colander, because the first time I did these, I didn't realize how slippery they are when they pop out of the skin. You squeeze them out of the skin and they shoot like a bullet. So, and they'll go, if you're not careful, end up on the floor. Then you have to wash them. And then you're going to rinse them with cold water after you take the skins off. Now you take those, put them on a paper towel and let them dry. And once they're dried, air dried on a paper towel, then you can actually put them in your spice grinder, and put them in your blender, and chop them up fine, and that is your almond meal, or almond flour. You can do that with any nut, honestly. You really can. You could have walnut. Well, walnut wouldn't be so bad. But, well, almond meal would actually still have some of the skin because it's very hard to get. I mean, you can get a walnut out of the shell, but you can't get that little layer of skin that's on there off very well because of all the little bumps and things in it. Then you've got, you know, other nuts you can do for difference in flavor. Flavorings, that's another one. Some people like to have a certain flavor, the same kind of flavor, like say strawberry. Now you can make your own strawberry puree very easily. Same way you make a strawberry sorbet. The only difference is if you still want the tartness in the strawberries, that you don't add the agave syrup or the maple syrup or whatever. So you take your fresh strawberries and you pulverize them in your blender until it's like very smooth, creamy. Now that's a puree that you can use as far as if you want to just make a strawberry swirl in like your pancakes or something. Put them in your waffles, great. If you want it to be sweet, you have to add a sweetener. You can use stevia, which is a natural sweetener. It's not a processed sugar. It's actually a plant. I had a stevia plant in Florida. You chewed on it, it was sweet. You chew on the leaves. We used to eat peppermint leaves as kids. And so that is something you can play around with. I love experimenting in the kitchen. You can probably tell. But, you know, some people don't. And some people like to get the ideas from other people. And here I am, hello. I've got all kinds of food ideas in my head. I can go into any refrigerator that has a bunch of leftovers and I can make a meal out of it. I've done it enough times that my kids used to be so irritated because they knew whatever they were eating was cooked like 1 or 2 days before, and now this is going to be something different. And they didn't like change. They didn't like change much. I mean, that's what I got out of it. But my husband still was flabbergasted. He says, "Now, what did you put in this?" And I go, "Well, it was this, and this was left over from yesterday." And I've never had anything bad come out of the kitchen. Nobody's died from my cooking yet. I actually have to get that. I have a embroidery design that says, "No one's died from my cooking yet." I keep meaning to make an apron with it on it. I haven't done that yet. Snacks. Since we got time to cover snacks. Healthy snacks. Some you probably would never think of. And I got one of them sitting right here in front of me. And I don't want anybody to get kind of freaked out about it. Let me clean some of this rosemary over here. Green bell pepper. I pretty much believe most people do like it. Okay, I do know that some people can't stand it for one reason. It gives them heartburn. I get heartburn unless the green pepper's cooked. And if it's not cooked, the only way I've been able to eat it is an interesting thing. My husband made these really great snacks. I'm going to show those to you. I actually have a video. I'm not blackmailing him. I'm trying to get him to be my cooking partner. But this is just fresh green bell pepper. Try it with your kids first because they won't eat anything green. Do they like peanut butter? Because if they like peanut butter, and this peanut butter happens to have honey in it, so some people are allergic to the honey. And you shouldn't give honey to a child less than 2 years old anyway, because of the culture part of it. You take green bell pepper and you put on it. I put this on a appetizer tray. People look at me and you put in the green pepper. Mmm. It's really good. Mmm. 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 Other things go with peanut butter. I didn't know it was called this. My husband said it. I made him up, because we always did. We took celery stick. You know, when you get down to this part, to this end, not much left. There's enough to make celery sticks out of. So, lengthwise, 3 inches. And that's what I kind of go by. So, we would cut them like that. Right? Most people would serve it up with a platter of ranch dressing. Not in this house. No, ranch dressing can be kind of fattening. Love it, but I'm trying to keep that excess off, especially after the holidays, right? So I got these celery sticks, and I put peanut butter on them, like we did as kids. And I put raisins across the top. That's the candy factor, the little sweet stuff on top. And my husband said, "Oh, great, you made me ants on a log." And I went, "Made you what?" He's like, "Ants on a log." I said, I'd heard it before, but I never put 2 and 2 together and knew it was celery and peanut butter. So, since he drives at night, I like to make him up little things, little treats. And so I'll make him up this. Another wonderful thing that you can stuff in celery. Oh my goodness. Pub cheese. Little tubs of pub cheese. It's a cheddar. It's a cheddar dip. You know, it's a spreadable, that's the word. Spit it out, girl. It's a spreadable cheese, and it has a little bite to it other than the cheddar flavor. It has some horseradish in it. And celery is amazing. I have some in there. I just gotta dig it out for his next little road trip on his job. In the meantime, I'm gonna put it in this container. I save these. I get lunch meat in these and I save them. I'm not going to go out and buy a bunch of plasticwares to have it get messed up. At least this way I'm getting lunch meat I need in the container when it's empty. So I'm saving money like that. So I'm doing this. If your kids are always wanting soda, oh my goodness. Give them a natural soda. Don't tell them what it is. Just tell them it's a new kind of soda. You take fruit juice, 100% fruit juice, a glass of ice. You put it 2/3 of the way full of the fruit juice, and then the rest, you put either seltzer water, I use seltzer water for them, or a club soda, something with a fizz that's clear. And if you use tonic water, that's fine. Tonic water actually has quinine in it, which if they're athletic and they tend to have like leg cramps and stuff, that helps with the cramping. Believe it or not, the quinine helps with leg cramping. You learn all these little neat things growing up out in the countryside. And some things I learned from my husband later on. So you've got celery, peanut butter, celery and cheese spread. Pimento cheese in these, that's what we always used. Problem is my husband doesn't like pimentos. So I end up having to make half his way and half my way. I gotta keep him out of my kitchen some of the time. Because when I can't find something, it's because he put it where he thinks it goes, not where he got it from. You know the problem? He's a great cook. But he keeps moving my stuff around. I have certain places I put things. Just like he does. Except the kitchen I figured is my domain until he walks in here. Then he starts. His thing is the grill. Do you like fish? I'm giving you all these little kitchen hints while I'm waiting. If you like to fish, but you don't like how it makes the house smell, I got a fix for that. Cook your fish. We're not frying stuff, okay? We're not doing frying. No, we're not frying fish. Frying's bad. We're going to bake the fish in the oven. And we're not going to bread it. we're going to make it nice and flaky and tasty. So you take your fish fillets, you put them in your pan for in the oven, and with that you want to have some onion, thin slices, some orange slices, some butter, and a little bit of vinegar. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay your fillets, your fish fillets in the bottom of the pan. And if you have some kind of special seasoning you like to sprinkle on there, go ahead and do it. And then you're going to take the orange slices and the lemon slices and place it on top of the fish with softened small slices of butter. Then you're going to take about a quarter cup to a half a cup, excuse me, like green pepper did it, of vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is best, but if you don't like the taste of apple cider vinegar, white vinegar works fine. It's a combination of the citric acids and the vinegar and the oranges, along with the onion, that draw the smell to that instead of it going into your house. It's like a fish freshener. Did you know that one? Did you know oranges and onions had that kind of power? With a little bit of vinegar? Yeah. Oh yeah, powerful stuff. Also, if you ever have something that makes a stain on your carpet that you're just like, that's never going to come out, like hair dye, as soon as it happens, if you take vinegar and baking soda and put it on there, it'll pull it out. It'll take that stain right out of your carpet. I don't know if it works with wine because we don't spill wine around here. We drink it. We don't have a problem with spilled wine. So those are some little tidbits. Now I gotta fix this other. Yeah, it's done his thing. The second loaf needs to be prepped up. I really like that. So yeah, maybe it did what it's supposed to. It doesn't quite fit the pan, but that's okay. That plastic wrap off. And here's my herbs for this one. I like to do this because it helps release the oils better. That was going to be really green. I just thought of something. Did I put that Parmesan on that? Yes, I did. Okay. Whew. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. I don't know if I did or didn't. And the onion pieces. Now you can actually use this dough as a pizza dough. You really can. You just don't put all the herb stuff on here. And when you cook it up, you put on top of it what you want to put on top of it. Even the sauce. Now I particularly would not do the sauce until towards the end. If you're going to do it as a pizza, have it cook halfway through, then put some sauce on there, and then the cheese on top of that, and let that last half of it be the part that cooks the sauce into it. I haven't done a focaccia pizza in a long time, so it just, I remember doing it, I just haven't done it in a long time. So, oh well, go on there. So what, this one got extra peppers on it. And then, this little guy. What would have been easier? I was just thinking. And sprinkle it on there. And on that side. This one went a little bit better. I like mine a little cheese. I'll put another teaspoon on there. Just like that. Now this one's going to go in for the 20 to 25 minutes. So I know that when this timer goes off, all I have to do is add 18 minutes to it. Oh my goodness, it looks so good. It looks so pretty. It smells wonderful. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to show you this thing. My husband's gonna go ape when he gets home and he smells this kitchen. Because you smell the rosemary, you smell the chives, you smell the thyme, the olive oil, the whole shebang with the onions and the green pepper. And it is like Italia heaven in here right now. I had forgotten how very, very delicious that smell is, because I haven't made it in a very long time, and now I feel really excited. As far as lactose intolerant, since I'm touching on health things, there is cheese that you can have, people. There is. It has to be an aged cheese. The reason why an aged cheese doesn't bother someone who is lactose intolerant is that it's not pasteurized. The pasteurized process is what makes you lactose intolerant. It's the process of how they pasteurize the cheese. So your American cheeses, it's the soft cheeses, hard cheeses, which are your aged cheese. That's why they're hard, because they're aged. And cheddar, actually even Swiss, because Swiss isn't a soft cheese, even though it seems kind of soft, but it is an aged cheese. Anything aged 3 months or more, go for it. But to make sure, try it in little increments, like try a sample. Go to the store and ask for a sample of it and see if, to walk around the store and see how, if it sits well with you, you're good. Most people, it's fine. Now, there's some that are extra sensitive, but the interesting thing about what I've learned over the years about lactose intolerance is it is the level of lactase that's in the cheese that upsets your digestive system. So the aged cheeses don't have that level. Theirs is like you almost can't measure it. And that's why they're considered lactose free. Doesn't matter what kind of cheese you buy. If it says lactose free, it's not totally 100% free. It'll be free up until about 2%. There's going to be about 2% of it in there. And that's why it doesn't bother you. It's not that it's free of it. It's that it's so low in it, your body doesn't, it goes right through. It does not give you any issues. So I did some research. Someone asked me about a certain kind of cheese in a place I work. And I had worked in a gourmet cheese shop for 2 years, fresh out of high school. And so I did my own homework. When I get asked a question, I don't know the answer. I do my homework and I figure out what the story is by facts that I find. And I found out that aged cheeses are considered and deemed lactose free because their lactase is so minimal that it's almost undetectable. I mean, it's detectable, but it's so minute that anything that your stomach can normally break down, it can break it down. So all of you guys who have found out you're lactose intolerant and you've really missed eating your cheese, you can have some Swiss, you can have some aged Gouda. Have you ever tried aged Gouda? That's just phenomenal. Just stay away from the soft cheeses. Grated Parmesan, oh my goodness, you could eat that all day long. It's because in the aging process, it dissipates. The stuff that bothers you, it dissipates. It goes, bye-bye. And that's the most beautiful piece of focaccia bread I ever seen. Oh my goodness. But I wish we could. I wish I could broadcast the aroma to you guys, because that's making me hungry. Just the smell is making me hungry. My husband's gonna be so happy that I used the right kind of yeast this time. I made a different kind of bread and I used the wrong kind of yeast. And trust me, if you find a recipe and it says use instant yeast, don't use the regular stuff because it won't do the job. And if it tells you to use regular and you use the instant, it's not going to be good either. It's the combination of the ingredients that work with the yeast. If you don't have the right yeast, your ingredients aren't going to work together. But I believe that this Well, it's a loaf here. Let's see. Countdown. That's our 60-second countdown. It's almost ready. Are you excited? I am. Did you like this video? Hope so. Don't you wish you were here getting ready to eat some with me? Ha ha ha. I bet you are. I wish you were here too. It's lonesome. I'm home by myself. But when I'm by myself, what do? I cook. And I feed that man. And I got 30 seconds on the clock. And, hey, at least give me a thumbs up for the attempt, right? I had to do it you missed out on the prepping of the actual dough because it takes 2 hours to rise the first time. When you first make it up, you wait 2 hours. And I said, I can't have these people on video for 3 hours. So I did that part. And now you get to see the end result for once. Because other ones I had to come back and do a second video. They were getting to see this all in one time. 4, 3, I feel like New Year's Eve. 2, 1. There it is! And there she comes. Oh, come on now, I gotta do. For the other bread, 17 minutes, got it. Okay, I got to be careful because skillet is hot. It's true. And this is amazing. Oh my goodness. This is beautiful. It's gorgeous. Can you guys see this? I think you can see this. Can you see how gorgeous this is? This is absolutely beautiful. It's still bubbling. It's still bubbling like crazy. So I've got it on a trivet, on a wooden trivet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a cookie rack. I'm going to let this cool for about 10 minutes. It'll still stay hot because it's in a skillet. The skillet stays hot. That one will be done in 15 minutes. This one, I can't wait. Cannot wait. I'm going to take I'm going to poke at it. Oh yeah. It's got the crunch. So all I'm doing is, and getting it ready to come out, is I'm just popping up the edge. So when I go take it out, it'll be good. Oh my goodness gracious. This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I don't want to touch it here because I know it's stinky hot and I've burned it myself before. Don't want to do that. So you can keep this wrapped at room temperature for several days. But because it's gluten-free, that's why. Or you can keep it refrigerated. You can keep it refrigerated for a good 2 months. Well, no, that's the, actually it says you can freeze it for up to 2 months. I'm sorry. So I could have this done, freeze it, and then just warm it up when I want. Because like, if we're not gonna, no, me and my husband are not gonna eat this whole thing in one sitting. No, we can't do that. So I'll keep it wrapped. I'll put it in the refrigerator. But this is beautiful. I know what I'm gonna do so that you guys can see. Cause I have parchment paper. If I can get it out of there to get it cool a little bit quicker. My parchment paper is here. This is the one kind of paper if you gals don't like having to do cleanup for some of the things that you bake in the oven. You put parchment paper down and you don't have to worry about this burning up in your oven because it doesn't. It's however it's made. I'm not sure exactly. I just know it's a wonderful thing I discovered years ago. And I never seemed to have it. Another wonderful kitchen gadget. This is a cookie rack, but it has legs. So it lets air circulate underneath. And that's the one I wanted to grab. I have other ones that lay really low onto the table. I'm like, Now this is going to be the tricky thing. I'm going to scoot this forward. So I'm dying to get this out here so you can see the edge. And I need the big wide spatula. So Since I'm a lefty, gotta turn this to the right. And now you can see it's not bubbling anymore. That's because that olive oil is sucking up into it. Okay. I didn't release it very well. You know what? It's probably going to have to sit up on there and let it cool. Because I think it's still too hot to pry it out. Sometimes that's the case. So that olive oil now has soaked into that bread with those herbs, that cheese on top. This is going to be a good snack. Again, if you've liked this video and you say, oh God, gotta have some focaccia now, make some. Comment, let me know you're going to make it. Let me know how it turned out. And share my video, please. I love cooking for people. You should see me. It's just me and my husband, and I have my 2 people over for dinner, and I cook like I'm cooking for an army because I love the smells of cooking. And if you do too, please subscribe. I would love to take some comments about what you would like to see me cook. I like a challenge. I don't care what it is. I'll try it. Do you know I know how to make apple strudel from scratch? And I'm not German. Nope. Although they say there is some in our ancestry somewhere. But this has been focaccia. Focaccia bread, gluten-free, with your barefoot cook, country style. Come back and see me, but make sure that when you come over,